Alright, little update. We got a little bit of progress. This is where our hopper will sit, and it's already got a couple of bolt holes in each side, so we'll do that. This is all situated up here the way it's going to go. We've got the body of our little slinger turned down here. Now, this is my little 3D print that I'm going to cast, and I'm going to cast up 3 of these. And one of them will sit up here, like that. And we'll just shorten it up to whatever's appropriate. I'll turn the inside diameter to be just over that 3/4, so it'll hopefully fairly well seal that upper section there, and with it still spinning in there. Otherwise, we'll have a little bit of aluminum that may get chewed out on all of these, but that's okay too. And once it sets in, it'll be fine. So for the bottom, this is printed out with a solid, which could be the top, and it'll get, part of it will get machined away. For the very bottom cap, the grease cap, I'm going to cut the whole top section off, and it'll just mount up underneath to seal the bottom of that bearing. And then for in here, what I've done on the slinger body is I turned the bottom side, and it slides down to there because I set it to where it's just a sliding fit, it's a loose sliding fit over the main shaft here. And I've got to cut a keyway in it and the shaft yet, and we'll key that, and then I'll probably on the top of it either weld in a little piece in part of the keyway or just weld up the top of the keyway, something like that, so it'll only come down so far, so I can adjust the height. Even though it'll have grub screws in there against that keyway to lock it in place, that'll eliminate any possibility of it sliding on down. So what I've done, and the reason it slides all the way down here, is the bottom of it I've turned to match this taper here, which is about a 7.5 degree taper. And so what will happen is it'll slide in there, it'll be a fit over the shaft, and then this will set down so it sets in approximately that position. So this portion of it will be up in the body of that. I'll put a grease cert on these on this one, and actually I may put the grease cert on the bottom of this one, on the bottom cap. That way it'll feed directly into the bearing, and we're just going to force enough grease up there to where we've got grease coming out the top, and hopefully that grease will act as a seal to help keep any sand from working its way back down in there. So maybe a little bit messy, and it may not work as well as I'd like, but we'll try it and see what happens there. I think it'll be fine. So that'll be up there. We'll do the same thing with this one. I'll put a grease cert on the side, and I'll have a shroud over here, so we'll have to put an access hole in, so I can just stick a grease gun in there and give it a couple squirts occasionally of grease to take care of it. But anyway, that's where we're at for right now. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do my electrical. My original thought was I was going to mount a control box up here, just an electrical box, and probably put my switch in there and then have my power cable coming off of that. And that's probably still what I'll do. I'd almost like a momentary switch down here on the handle of this so that I can grab it, and if I want to use it to actually sift sand into the top of a molding box or over the top of a pattern while we're there at the bench, all I've got to do is kind of pull it over, hit a switch, and have it feed down in without having to hold on to it, feed sand in, and run a switch up here. Well, if I've got a momentary switch down here that I can operate, I can dump some sand on the top and sift it down in there. So that's kind of the thoughts. I'm about due to take it back in, clean it up, and weld all this up. This big arm here on this side, we don't need this much plate. It will probably get cut off. The reason I haven't done it yet is that there again, I thought I was going to mount my electrical box to probably this side with a switch on it. So I thought I'd get that all fitted before I cut those off. So we'll shorten these up. They don't need to go beyond, I don't think. My belting will fit around inside here to shroud it. We'll have to slit it so it fits down in, and maybe put another piece in to seal it or something. I'm not sure exactly what we're doing there. Once we get everything else fitted and the slinger all set up and adjusted, why then we'll shorten up the bottom of the shaft. I could shorten this bottom of the shaft right now, but if I've still got a center down here, and if I need to turn anything between centers, I still want the option of doing that. So, well, here's the update for the Sam Fluffer. So we're getting awful close. So here's our housing, and this is what we've ended up with. And this is all still rough. We're going to assemble this. Is what we're going to do. Bearing seats down here, or race down there. Bearing race up here. and it mounts up here with our motor on top, and you know, it would have been suspended like this. This is the front we're looking at here. So the best way I found to assemble this is here in the vise. I'll tell you what we've got as we go along here. And this is the first time I've assembled it after I've done a little more welding and grinding on it. So hopefully we've got it right. So, excuse me. This is our main shaft with our little spinner. So that's what we've come up with. We've got a key in here and 2 set screws that lock it in place there. But on this upper row, we've also drilled on into the shaft, and the bolts bottom out into that shaft so they lock it there. So that's that setup. And I found that I can assemble it. Hopefully I remember everything here. This is our chute. It's going to set in here. And if we put our main shaft up through there, we can slide this up in here like this. Now, I think I showed you my little patterns. See if that's going to sit, what we've got going here. Let's see if that'll rest there. I showed you my little patterns, so I made 3 castings. And the other day I was just going to get my sand ready because it's been sitting in the heat, so I thought it'd dry out. Well, we still had enough moisture in there, so I went ahead and ran molds and cast the other day. And they all started out like this. They were solid in the middle, or they had a solid lip, so I just machined all 3 of them from this setting. Now this is the first one, and what I've done is I bored it to be a sliding fit on the shaft here, and we've got our taper up here on the top. I cut a taper on the bottom of the body of the spinner right here, and I guess I probably should have showed that before I put it together. I guess I should have showed that before I put it together. So I tapered the inside of the body here so that when they're put together, that goes together just like that. So it's going to act as a seal. I'm going to grease it from the bottom, and I'm just going to put a greaser in the very bottom cap and shoot grease up in there. So we'll let it come clear to the surface and out here. We'll have to watch and keep it wiped off, make sure it doesn't overheat and melt out or anything like that. But that hopefully will help us act as a seal so that when it's full of grease, why no sand can get back up in there. So that's the plan with that. So we put it in there and it sits there. I've already drilled and tapped. Then we've got a bottom bearing that goes on here. These all have to be cleaned up and washed and re-greased and put together. I found the washers that were the right size, and these are the nuts that I fitted. And this bottom one tightens down snug. It's got a set screw in the side of it, both top and bottom, both of these. They've got a Allen head in there. Then we've got the same assembly on the top. We've got a bearing washer and another nut, and that's where we set the preload. So we'll set up in there like that. Make sure we don't drop it here. Maybe. Okay. And we'll set the preload off of this nut on the top. Okay, I'm not going to put the set screws in either of them. Now for the bottom cap, I did the same thing, except where it was solid in the bottom. Why, I just machined off the top. We've done the same thing. That will mount right on there, and it's directional. They all only go on one way. And I'll add a greaser, probably just straight into the bottom of this one, and then we can grease it from the bottom. For the top, and I've already drilled and tapped those, I have to shorten up our set screws. Now for the top, I did the same thing, except it's bored 3/4 to match the threads, so it's a clearance to the 3/4, I believe 16 threads we put on there. And that cap sets on top, and then the bottom of our coupling goes on. And it will set on there, thread on there like that. And there's just a little bit of space in between those two, and I'll add a greaser to this one up on the top. and that will couple to our motor coupling on the other side. Now this will set in here. Let's see, make sure I'm doing this in the right order now, because I have not done this. Okay. And this sits down here. And we put our top bolts in. That's a little too close there. I just want to make sure those are in place and hold it fairly steady. There again, I've got the finish work to do on this, but the basics are set up here. Now I've got my rubber already cut so that it will slide underneath. I'm not going to install it yet. Actually, it goes this way, and it will set right here, slides underneath here, and bolts through, and then bolts to our housing, and we'll add some more bolts there, but that sits in around there. And then over the top for that, why, this is my little handle, and I still got a lot of finish to do. I've been hogging a lot of metal on this one today, and it's not perfect, but it'll work perfect for what we want. So I've smoothed the inside, radiused it, and I've just taken the places where we would normally have a steady rest, and I've drilled and tapped that for 3/8 bolts. And the way it's going to set on here is it's going to slide on here just like that and slide up into these brackets. And I still have to drill it both top and bottom to mount that. Those will be mounted on there. And we still have quite a bit of contouring. I don't need all this material up here. And I haven't finished this out because I'm going to radius out around so we've got a good handhold on it. But I think I'm going to mount a switch here some way. And I don't have the switch yet, so I'm going to wait and see what I come up with for a switch. So we do that. And then for right now, I'll change these. All I had that was long enough was these carriage bolts. And they're going to thread right in here like this. Of course, our shroud will be underneath it. My flats here, when I machined them out and drilled and tapped them, they're a little bit ragged because I really was pushing the limit of what I could accomplish on the milling machine with this big a casting, and I had it mounted to an angle plate. I faced off the other side as best I could and mounted it to just my big angle plate, and I still didn't really have enough clearance on part of it to really get a good cut, and part of it interfered with the column, this section of the bottom when I was machining, I think this one of these two. Why, there was interference there, so we couldn't machine everything, but we got flats, got holes drilled, got one of them that's off a little bit, but there again, that's alright, it's not going to make a bit of difference as long as we got clearance and don't hit anything going around. Now I still am going to probably weld a couple little links to the back, to these back edges here on either side, so I've got an anchor point when it's hung, because when it starts it's got quite a bit of inertia there to spin around. What I'll probably do is just cut a slot in these, grind them off on the back, and bought them a nut, or put a nut on the back side to use as a lock nut to set my depth on those. And they've got clearance all the way around. So that's the way it's going to go together. Like I say, the shroud will be underneath here, so it will protect all this, and that's where all the action will happen. And then mounted to the motor. So there's what we end up with. And I still, once I fit the rubber up to it, I have to drill it for these bolts. I don't have holes in them yet. But there's our setup. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to spend the rest of the day and probably first thing in the morning cleaning up the mill and the lathe bolts. I've got them even dirtier than usual with everything on here. I have to drill these 2 holes. I'll just put quarter 20 bolts in them. I'll do 4 of them, 2 on either side. Make sure that doesn't go anyplace. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with all of that, I think. So, like I say, I've got my screws here. I haven't done anything with electrical yet. Like I say, I think I'm probably going to put some sort of a small box right up here, or I may just connect them in wire time. I'll probably wire tie my cable back on the bottom side of this and around and run it underneath the casting. And like I say, I think I'll try and mount a switch over here someplace, whether it's a toggle switch, whether it's a rocker switch. You know, I'd originally thought I'd put a momentary switch on and maybe another switch up here so it'd be constant on. But I think what I'll do is I think I'll just put one switch right here, like I say, either a rocker or a toggle switch, and try and mount it down out of the way a little bit. We don't want sand and crap on it, but that way it'll be fairly easy to access. So yeah, getting awful close. I'm pretty happy with it. So there we go. Hopefully you found this a little bit interesting. Next installment we'll probably be doing final assembly, I'm hoping. So that's all I got for you today. If you got any comments or suggestions, leave them in the comments section for me below. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, I'd appreciate it. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch.